Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. And we are here today for our, it's June 22nd land use for 2026 land use hearing. And I wanted to just say we are here virtually online using this meeting for our 3 p.m. Land use hearing. I call this meeting to order, and as our tradition, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join as you are able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for joining us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I am Larimer County Commissioner Jody Shaddy McNally and Chair of the Board of County Commissioners. I'm joined by Commissioner John Kafalis, and Commissioner Stevens is excused today. And behind us or on the screen, we have, I believe, or maybe they're in the room, the clerk to the clerk to the board. I'm not sure who's there in the room, but thank you all for being there. We're also joined by several folks from our board, from our planning office. So I'm going to ask and turn this over to our planning manager and let them introduce the rest of staff that are joining us online. I'm assuming, there is, okay, I see now. Want to also introduce really quick before I turn it over to Jenny for the, our county attorney is Frank Haug, and he is in the room, and thank you, Frank, for being here. And Jenny, would you mind to introduce the rest of the folks that are in the room with you or online? Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner. And just to point out, the clerk joining us today is Deidre.
Thank you, Deidre. Sorry, I can't see you yet, so I apologize, but thank you for being there.
So I'm Jenny Axmaker. I'm the planning manager. Joining me at the staff table, we have Laura Collier, one of our county planners. We have our county building official, Mike Williams, and we have Ryan Oswendell from our planning admin. Across the way, we have Bruin Johnson, David Pringle, and Tracy Shambo, all from our engineering department. And I skipped over Sam Lasher, also one of our county planners. So that's the crew we have here today. With that, I would like to respectfully request that all members of the audience silence their electronic devices. Please help yourself to a copy of the agenda and hearing procedures, which are located right next to the door over here. Or if you're joining us online, they are posted on the website at larimer.gov/BOCC/commissioners-meetings. Please wait to speak until you're recognized by Chair Shattuck McNally. Please maintain civility, refraining from audience applause, comments, or disruptions, whether positive or negative. Please make all comments to the Board of County Commissioners from the podium. We do have a portable microphone available as needed. Please state your name at the beginning of your comments and provide the spelling of it if it's unique. Please speak directly into the microphone so that remote participants may hear. The microphone on the podium can be repositioned to best capture your testimony. Questions may be asked during your testimony, but will not be answered until public comment is closed and rebuttal has begun. Upon request, we do have assisted listening devices for the hearing impaired. For those of you on Zoom who are attendees, you will be muted until you're recognized by the chair. If an online attendee wishes to speak or request a consent item to be removed, please use the raise hand function on the Zoom control bar or *9 on your phone. Thank you.
You'll need to unmute, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. I was trying to be respectful. I want to thank you, Jenny, for introducing everyone and going through all of that. And I want to thank staff there in the room and online for their flexibility and support for this unique circumstances for our land use hearing for today. And I want to just let folks know this is a unique and unusual circumstance, but we are glad that they could make it work for us. So now we will move on and talk about some of the information that is on our agenda today. And I wanted to just list the items clarifying the consent items, and there's a discussion item. So first we have a public hearing consent items, which is the Dory Family Trust Subdivision and Appeal, file number 24-LAND 4421. Second, we have Fulmer Appeal, file number 26-GNRL 0590. And those are the only two consent items. And then we have one public hearing discussion item, which we will discuss later, the Livermore Fire Station fee appeal, file number 26-GNRL 0592. But first, let me go back to our consent agenda with the two items that I listed before. Typically, items on the consent agenda are considered routine in nature, and as far as we know, there is no perceived or significant controversy. Items on the consent agenda will not have a staff presentation. The applicant will not get to speak, and there will not be an opportunity for the public comment unless the item is pulled from the consent agenda. Commissioners are able to pull an item from the consent agenda as well as the public. If that occurs, then there will be a presentation, public comment, and the rest of the procedure. For the items on the discussion agenda, there will be a staff presentation, and there will be an opportunity for the applicant to make their case, and there's usually an opportunity for public comment. And after that, the applicant and then the staff can make a rebuttal to the public comment, and commissioners can ask questions of the applicant and staff, and then we'll enter into deliberations where we'll do our best to make informed decisions. So thanks for listening. And with that in mind, let's talk about the items on our consent agenda. And I will ask first the commissioner, us as commissioners, are there any items from the two items on our consent agenda that you would like to have pulled from the consent agenda, Commissioner Kafalis?
No.
I do not as well. Let me ask all those in the room and online, staff, if you could help me with this. Are there any members of the public who wish to have an item from the consent agenda pulled?
If you could raise your hand if you're in the room, if you wish to have an item from the consent agenda pulled. Madam Chair, we have no hands raised.
Thank you so much, Jenny. So we will now move on to approve that consent agenda. Commissioner Kafalis, I ask respectfully for you to read that motion, please.
Madam Chair, can we just make sure nobody online raises their hand?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I thought you had done both. Go ahead, please.
If any members of the public online would like to remove an item, please use the raise your hand function or *9 now. Madam Chair, we have no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. So now I will ask for Commissioner Kafalis to please read that motion to approve the consent agenda for today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve the consent agenda, the two items on the consent agenda for June 22nd, 2026, subject to any conditions of approval as set out in the staff reports, and furthermore authorize the chair to sign the findings and resolutions for these two items.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that motion. Any further discussion or deliberation? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
With that, this motion passes 2-0, and we will now move on to our discussion items. And thank you all, and those for you in the room that were there for the consent agenda items, and staff, you're welcome to go ahead and leave unless you'd like to watch the rest of the meeting. That would be fine as well. So now we're going to talk about the discussion items, and I believe we'll have staff start with the presentation. And is this Samantha who's presenting? I'm not sure who is.
This is our county building official, Mike Williams.
Okay, thank you. It's hard to see. Okay, there's the screen. I appreciate it. I am only seeing you partially sometimes. So Mr. Williams, please proceed. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Today, there's been a request from the Livermore Fire Protection District to refund $28,724.85 for permit fees. These fees were assessed on building permit 25-COM 0037 for the construction of station number 4, located at 6382 Red Mountain Road in Livermore. The summary is the staff fully recognizes that nonprofits provide incredibly valuable services to our community. However, staff must recommend declining this specific request to waive building permit and planning fees. Approving waivers on an ad hoc or case-by-case basis creates significant legal and operational vulnerabilities. If the board wishes to support these initiatives, our ultimate recommendation today is to establish a format, a formal unified policy framework rather than granting a one-off exception. If we look at legal and fairness concerns, there's many challenges. First, building permit fees are not taxes. Legally, they must bear a substantial nexus or a direct connection to the regulatory service provided. Our county building official has noted that there is no clear legal provision allowing his division to charge lower or zero fees to some customers, which inherently enforces relatively higher fees onto others to cover the cost. Furthermore, making these decisions on a case-by-case basis opens the county to charges of unequal treatment and potential discrimination lawsuits. Finally, it is beyond staff's authority and expertise to determine which nonprofit services are worthy of fee reductions and which ones are not. It also could have significant financial impact. The financial reality of our operations is the county building division is 100% self-funded through permit and licensure fees. It receives no general fund tax dollars. If we waive fees without a mechanism to backfill that lost revenue, a broad application of waivers will substantially impact the division's daily operations, staffing, and inspection timelines. While planning fees do not fully fund the planning division in the exact same manner, their operations would also be heavily impeded by frequent waivers without a supplemental funding source to cover development review costs. We also face the situation with the pass fee through problem. A critical hurdle is what we call pass-through fees. When a building permit is issued, the building division collects various fees that do not belong to us. They are legally mandated to be transmitted to other entities via intergovernmental agreements or IGAs. These include transportation, fire capital expansion fees, as well as specific voter-approved use taxes, such as for behavioral health, the county jail, county fair, and other open spaces. The building division cannot unilaterally waive these fees. If we do not collect them from the applicant, the county is still legally required to pass those funds along, meaning we would have to basically pay that debt out of our own pocket. The staff recommendation today is that staff recommends to deny the request, to create a formal policy regarding fee waivers in addition to the existing policy on fee reductions, and if waivers are approved, create a mechanism to backfill those fees to the building department to sustain the budget. And that's my presentation for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, for your presentation. At this time, I'll ask Commissioner Kafalos, do you have any questions at this time? Staff.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
I do have a couple of questions, if I may.
Okay.
And the first one, looking at the list, the bullet points of staff recommendations, creating a formal policy regarding fee waivers in addition to the existing policy on fee reductions. Could you elaborate on what your thinking is there?
After some discussion within the department, maybe to develop some type of a policy that would have an application process with clear guidelines on what types of organizations or which situations we would be able to approve these. Right now, we feel that we lack some direction and we have to, go through a hearing each time that would be requested, where if we had a formal process, an application maybe governed by, certain income levels or different types of services that may come up in the county, to give us a clear vision to be able to help, our customers when they ask, and then also to help staff in making those decisions.
Thank you, Mike. That's helpful. Just a couple more questions. I think in your comments, in your presentation, you said something to the effect of, if we were to waive these fees, almost $29,000 in fees, that would shift the cost, I believe, to other fee payers. Could you explain that? How would that do that?
Well, what I would say is if we started to waive fees, when we waive fees, it creates a budget shortfall, which may cause us to raise other permit fees to help balance our budget throughout the year on a long term. It necessarily wouldn't be this exact, these dollars going straight to someone else, but it would be an overall, situation.
Well, I know that's helpful. I just, in terms of raising the fees on others, that doesn't happen. That goes through a formal process, and there's a timeline there. So I don't think, based on the potential of waiving one set of fees in this case, how that would affect, shifting that cost to others, or how that would influence the next time we review permit fees, that that would influence any of that or any of those deliberations. So I don't know if you have a response to that, but that's what comes to mind when you say what you say.
I guess the thought would be maybe not just a one-time thing would shift those fees, but if we began, other nonprofits that then come forward, which we have, several permits a year, that by the reduction in, the fees for one group may cause us to, propose in the future in those formal hearings to have to raise costs to help make up for lost revenue if we were granting free permits to other organizations. It was the thought behind that.
No, I appreciate your engagement, Mike, Chief Building, County Building Official. Madam Chair, may I ask one or two more questions at the moment?
Sure, I have some as well, Commissioner. Thank you.
You want me to
Go ahead.
pause for a bit and you want to go?
I just I had a couple too, but go ahead, proceed.
Okay, give me a second here. So, in this case, with these particular fees that are outlined in the applicant letter that we received back in April or March, whenever that April, can you give examples of, Mike, what are examples of pass-through fees?
Just a second here.
I guess what you're getting at is you're in the building division, and the big chunk of that 28,000 plus is transportation capital expansion fees, and we are obligated to make sure that the engineering department gets those. Would that be an example, sir?
Yeah, things like the TCF fees, other fees that are assessed, just like we said in the presentation, the jail fees and those other fees that are passed through, fire districts that have, levied amounts on permit fees that we collect that are passed through to that organization. We're just the source to help collect those and organize that, and then we send those fees on to those other assessments that are on a building permit. They don't stay in-house.
Okay. My last question for now, and thanks for indulging me there, Mike. Hope that's all right, Mike.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I'm looking at the general fee appeal criteria, and there are 4 of them, and it seems to me that number 2 doesn't apply because we didn't make any errors in processing the application. And the others, well, I think the applicant is attempting to demonstrate financial hardship. So based on their presentation, we can determine whether or not that criterion applies. And then with the other 2, even though technically they're not, they don't apply, I suppose, there is an acknowledgement that the Livermore Fire Protection District. They provide a very unique service, and they collaborate with our wildland firefighters, and they, this particular fire station would be in an area that would be very helpful to get access to, accidents or fires. So I guess I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on, given that there's very serious public good in areas of the county that don't have much in the way of services, does that supersede perhaps the strict interpretation of those criteria? I hope that makes sense, sir.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're asking,
Okay,
Commissioner.
gotcha.
And, the staff here, we definitely recognize the service that firefighters and other first responders provide for our community. We're not looking to take away from that service. In discussions that we had here, when a choice is made to build a new fire station or to add on or do those things, that's kind of an accepted cost that they're incurring. We talk about hardships or situations in the past when we've had, the large scale fires and flooding where the commissioners at that time chose to reduce fees under certain guidelines by certain amounts to help those people recover from that. Was what we were looking at would be considered a hardship, something that happens that, wasn't expected, wasn't planned, and then we have to find a way to help our community rebuild. And that's kind of what we looked at interpreting, those hardships or other situations.
Once again, thank you, Mike. I think your responses are reasonable. Thanks for the conversation.
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm not sure who to ask this question of, so please, anyone who wants to tackle this, let me know. And but I'm curious. As I remember back, there has been another or one or two other new stations built in the county in the last few years. And I was wondering if any of those fire stations received a fee waiver or reduction.
I would probably defer to staff just for my short time here in the county, Commissioner. I'm not sure I can answer that question. I would need some support from others.
That's why I was saying whoever could answer that would be great. I'm not sure if that's something up top of your heads that you could respond to.
Commissioner, give me just a second and I hopefully can help answer.
Commissioner, this is Rebecca Everett, Community Development Director. I'm going through our files to see what I can find here, but my recollection, which I can confirm in a moment, is that the only recent fire station where there has been a fee waiver was for the Livermore Fire Protection District. It was a similar appeal fee waiver request to this one, where staff recommended denial and the commissioners approved a fee waiver. And I believe that is the only case where we have had a full fee waiver of building permit fees of any case, let alone a fire station in recent years. But I'm just going to do a quick check of our records to confirm that that's accurate.
And thank you, Rebecca, for that. If you could tell me what was the year for that as well, for the other fee waiver application.
Yes, let me check quickly, and I should be able to get back to you while you ask any other questions that you may have.
Thank you. So I know that there is that one review criteria of exceptional documented financial hardship exists. And I am wondering about, is there criteria that staff have used to understand a quote unquote exceptional documented financial hardship? Is there a criteria or is it just a stated request or circumstance from the applicant? That would be my next question.
I see we have Rebecca back. Do you?
Oh, no, I'm just still on camera. Sorry, I'm still looking through files.
Perfect.
I didn't hear the question. If that was directed at me, I apologize,
No,
Commissioner.
it wasn't.
It wasn't.
It was directed at anyone. So anyone who can answer that. So.
And Commissioner, would you mind repeating the question? I was also looking for fees online.
I apologize. I threw you all a curveball, but that was my question, my first question. But except the review criteria, talking about exceptional documented financial hardship, and there was a letter, but I was wondering what the staff, what you had in kind of a criteria to be understood as an exceptional documented financial hardship. Or is that just a stated request from the applicant stating they have exceptional financial hardship?
It would be a criteria that the applicant would have to demonstrate for us. It's not, I can't tell you specifically what an exceptional hardship would be, but it would be, I think the applicant in their letter described how small their service district is and some of the challenges that they're dealing with as justification for meeting that hardship. But it's something the applicant has to kind of state and
okay, and maybe they'll do that in their presentation. So, okay. Rebecca, I'll just go ahead and hold my other questions, unless you have that.
I do have a response to your question. So the year of that previous fee waiver request was 2019. And it was for the Livermore Fire Protection District. And it was a request to waive the planning fees at that time, not the building permit fees. I apologize, both the planning and building permit fees, which total was about $4,300 between both planning and building permit. The staff recommendation was for denial, and the county commissioners did approve that fee appeal, and did waive the fees.
Okay, that's helpful. I have a few other questions, but I think I'll hold that until we maybe I will have some of these questions answered when we have the presentation. So I'll hold the other questions until then. Commissioner Gonzalez, I see your hand is raised, sir.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Thanks, Commissioner. Just a couple of follow-ups based on your question and Rebecca's responses. In 2019, what was that for? Was that for in addition to one of the current fire stations? Or was that for, which fire station was that for? And also, Rebecca, related to that, because if we waived the $4,300 in permit fees, did the commissioners backfill those dollars to the various divisions in your department?
To my knowledge, the fees were not backfilled, but I can't say that with 100% certainty. I would need to go probably talk to someone who maybe has a more documentation on what may have happened after that. The fee waiver request was for the expansion to station number 1.
That's right, yeah.
And you know, I believe that the applicant for this fee waiver request is here as well, and they may have some history or recollection too as part of their presentation.
Thank you, Rebecca. And one final question before we go to the applicants, and that is one of the recommendations is to perhaps create a formal policy regarding fee waivers in addition to the existing policy on fee reductions. Can you be kind enough to remind us what is our existing policy on fee reductions? I believe that relates to affordable housing and those kinds of things. Could you address that, please? And if you have any thoughts on whether this is something, if we go down this path, is that something that we would consider that we can do? That's to fit into a work plan and that sort of thing.
Yes, the only policy that we have in place related to fee reductions is specifically for the fees that are incurred during the planning process. So the planning and engineering development review fees. It does not apply to building permit fees or impact fees like the transportation capital expansion fee or fire impact fees, et cetera. And that policy, which has been adopted by the county commissioners, allows for a 25% reduction in those development review fees for projects that are providing affordable housing, are very small subdivisions, are small business, or are meeting a community need or providing an important community service. So that small project fee reduction is offered to applicants who meet that criteria, including nonprofits like a fire district who may be providing an important community service, but that applies to those development review fees that happen at the front end of the project and tend to be much smaller than the building permit fees on the back end.
And isn't it true that we also have, if a home is destroyed or property in a natural disaster like a wildfire, isn't there some either fee waiver or fee reduction?
We do have in our code the ability for the county commissioners to enact a fee reduction program for rebuilds from a disaster. That doesn't apply in situations where there may have been a single structure fire or perhaps a rock slide that impacted a single property or that type of disaster situation. But when there is a disaster of community-wide impact, we do have a disaster recovery program that the commissioners can choose to put into effect. So the Cameron Peak Fire, the Alexander Mountain Fire are two examples where the commissioners approved reduction in building permit fees. Not a complete waiver, but a discount on those fees for the rebuild.
Thank you very much, Rebecca.
And I believe you asked too about the process for creating a policy or what that would look like. That is an option. There is no policy in place for building permit fees or transportation capital expansion fees to reduce or waive those fees. If that is a matter of policy that the commissioners would like to pursue and consider, then we could talk about what that looks like, how it fits into the work plan when we tackle that, and if what guardrails are appropriate.
Okay, Rebecca, hold that thought because I'll have some questions later regarding that. So let's go ahead and Commissioner, thank you for your questions. Let's move on to proceeding with the next portion by having the applicant present. You will have 10 minutes to present. Thank you. And can you make sure you identify yourself as you come to the podium? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me to speak today. The Livermore Fire Protection District is a poor district. We do not have a lot of money. The fee request, or the fee represents 6.8% of our current budget. Our budget is $420,000 a year. When we're done with this building, we're going to have $1 million mortgage on it, on a 10-year note. Currently on our balance sheet, we owe $92,000 on two apparatuses we bought a few years ago to replace equipment that was basically 30 years old with a 20-year life on it. The current station no longer has potable water. Our reverse osmosis system is no longer repairable. A new system is going to cost approximately $30,000, and it's not in this year's budget, so we'll have to wait another year for that. With this new station, we have to equip it. We need to put in tools, supplies, ladders, furnitures. The condition of our other apparatuses, we have two what are called Type 6 vehicles. They are basically pickup trucks that are, I don't want to say tricked out, but basically on a flatbed, we put in tanks, we put in hoses. Each of those runs about $200,000 a piece. We have one that literally we patch with glue about every time we need to call it out. And before we can even do a down payment for one of these, we need to pay off the other two vehicles. As they mentioned, you were kind enough to waive the fees for the extension of Station 1 when we put on the 3 new bays. With this station, when we have the grand opening, we're going to ask people if they want to sponsor something. Would you like to put your name on a bay? For so many dollars, we'll allow you to do that. Anything we can do to raise money. I've learned to beg a lot since I've become the president of the board of the fire department. With respect to, I want to address one thing also in one of the exhibits. The transportation department talked about the effect of transportation and the effect this station will have on it. Okay, this station is an unmanned station. Other than periodically the station chief may be in to do some paperwork, this station will only become active when we get a call. At that point, if the apparatus in that station is needed, firefighters will show up. They're all volunteers. They will move the apparatus, deal with the emergency, take it back. If we have to clean it, we will clean it off. Many of the emergencies, unfortunately, come at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning when some vehicle on 287 tries to challenge the law of centrifugal force, turning from 287 onto Owl Canyon and spills his truck, and we have to go out there and deal with traffic. This basically Red Mountain Road has been classified by the county as a minor collector, so it's not a major thoroughfare. It's a dirt road, gravel road. They talk about whether deliveries, shift changes. There are no shift changes. Nobody lives there. Nobody stays there overnight. I'm assuming there's deliveries to people in that area every day, and a delivery to the fire department wouldn't add anything to traffic whatsoever. It's a much needed state station. It's been planned for over 15 years. It took us 15 years to get enough money to get a down payment to build the station. The population there has grown immensely over the past few years, and I'm assuming will continue to grow as people want to move out of urban areas and into rural areas. And so I whatever you can do, I ask your indulgence. If you could waive these fees, I guarantee you they will be put to good use. I would like to correct one other thing too, Mr. Williams. We are a not-for-profit. But we're not for profit because we're a government subdivision of the state of Colorado. So it's not like we're out there with a 501c3. We are part of the government. And any questions you have, commissioners, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, sir. And you have a few more minutes left. Is that the end of your presentation and comments?
That's what I really came to present.
Okay. I will ask Commissioner Kofalas, do you have any questions for the applicant and the person representing the board today?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. Thank you, Bruce. I do have a couple of questions. Let's see. Well, first of all, can you say a little bit, the letter that you sent to us in April, you talk about letters of support. Can you elaborate on that? You said there were letters of support from Larimer County Fire District, et cetera. Can you speak to that at all?
Well, as we started out this station, I mean, it's been a long time coming. And, you know, the chief received letters saying, you know, we're glad to see this station coming in. It's important. We do get, when we have issues up there in the past, we have mutual agreement with Larimer, with Wyoming 10. They will come down and help us. We have letters of support from mutual agreements with other fire departments, and so this station gives us additional coverage and faster coverage actually to the Virginia Dale area. And for some reason, the number of accidents up in Virginia Dale seems to exceed the number of accidents at Owl Canyon, which is hard to believe. And so it increases our response time. I think that's recognized by the community and other agencies that also render aid of the type we do.
Thank you. And just to further clarify regarding the matter of letters of support, you also list our County Office of Emergency Management and the Sheriff's Office. But in the spirit of clarification, these letters of support, I don't know if they're actual letters or verbal, I don't know if we've seen them, but they're supporting the construction of this fire station. They're not necessarily supporting a fee waiver. Is that correct?
That's
Bruce?
correct. That is correct. With respect to both the Sheriff's Department and even the State Patrol, all those officers who patrol Northern Colorado have our door code. And many times I will drive past Station 1 and notice in the parking lot is a sheriff's car or State Patrol because they're using the washroom. They need to, they stop in because we have water in the refrigerator. If they need some water and they need a snack. We're open to all law enforcement and they appreciate that. And we appreciate them coming, using our facilities as they need it.
And what is the status of the completion of the project?
We're close to asking for an occupancy permit. I figure hopefully in the next 7 to 14 days, we will have an occupancy permit and then we will have a grand opening. And we hope you commissioners come to the grand opening because you've made this ability to have this station.
And just one or two more questions. Thank you. And that is, on the topic of financial hardship, it's a little bit unusual, or it seems like it's a little bit unusual to me that you've paid the fees in order to move forward with the project, and now you're asking for a refund.
We originally paid the fees. As you remember, back, I want to say in May or June, I approached the board here and asked would you waive the fees? An email was sent out by the building department talking about an application for fee waiver. Unfortunately, it went to our general contractor, and the general contractor looked and said, well, I didn't ask for a fee waiver. And so it never got forwarded to us in time to put the application in. And so we were then told, if you want the fee waiver now, you have to go and ask the board for the waiver.
Okay, last question. And again, Madam Chair, thanks for your patience with. And that is, typically when an organization undertakes such an endeavor, which is so important, the financial modeling occurs. And I get what you were saying about, Station 1 and potable water and all kinds of things. But in your financial model, did you not take into consideration the $1.5 million cost of building the station, as well as all of the associated, ancillary costs like the fees?
We did take those into consideration. The interesting thing was, in looking at the fees, as was mentioned here earlier, when the fees were waived in 2019, they were $4,000 and change. We didn't expect the fees to be $28,000, but I guess inflation was really rampant between then and now, because it's it's 7 times what it was back then.
Well, I think it's also based on a formula that our engineering, based on square footage and industrial use and that sort of thing. Well, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your comments, your responses.
Just one other addition. We did model this, and we went out for 3 bids for the mortgage, 3 banks. And if the information we got from them, we were able to model the fact that we could start the construction because we had the $500,000 to put down, and that looking at the interest rate on a 10-year note and looking at the budget, we could make those monthly payments.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. I don't have any questions for you at this time. And I have a few more questions, but I will hold that for after public comment for staff. So let's go ahead and proceed Jenny, I will ask for your assistance with helping me manage public comment. And so just wanted to
Thank you.
make sure the applicant knows who's speaking for the applicant. Once we get through public comment, you will get 5 minutes total for a rebuttal. So with that, Jenny, can you tell me how many people are signed up?
Madam Chair, can we just take a quick pause? I believe the presenter on behalf of Livermore did not state his name at the beginning of his testimony, and I'm sure the clerk would love it if we can just get your name on the record, please.
My name is Bruce Huey, Huey, and I'm the president of the board of directors of the Livermore Fire Protection District. Sorry.
No problem.
Thank you, Jenny,
Uh,
for clarifying that. I thought he had said something, but that's why I didn't ask. But I wasn't sure if I didn't hear it as clearly. So thank you for clarifying that. So do we have, how many people do we have for public comment?
If you are looking to make public comment today on this case, if you could just raise your hand if you're in the audience for me so we can count. All right, we have no hands raised in the audience. Ryan, do you want to check online for us?
If any members of the public online would like to speak, please use the raise your hand function or *9 now. We have no hands raised.
Okay, so let's just make another call real quick. For anyone that wishes to make public comment on this matter, now is your time to indicate that you wish to make that public comment. You would have 3 minutes. Any indication, Jenny and Ryan?
Nope, I do not believe we have anyone online or in the audience that wishes to make public comment. And Madam Chair, I do know Director Everett does have an update for you on the questions you've asked.
Okay, well, first let me go ahead and close public comment. And so for the applicant, since there is no public comment, there is really no need for a rebuttal from public comment. So we'll move back on to Rebecca to answer some questions, and I have a couple more. So Rebecca, what would you like to answer?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to clarify, I misspoke earlier in response to one of the questions about prior fee appeals and fee waivers. There was a second one I was able to find. The information I shared about the Livermore Fire Protection District expansion to station number 1 was accurate. The year prior to that, in 2018, there was a fee appeal request from the Poudre Canyon Fire District for a waiver of fees for the site plan process and a variance. That fee waiver was also approved by the Board of County Commissioners, and the amount was $2,500. I wanted to add that information for your consideration as well.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Commissioner Cavals, I had a few more questions. Did you have more, sir?
Let me ask a really quick one, Commissioner, to Rebecca. And Rebecca, just to, once again, to clarify, in those two examples, was it a fee waiver or a fee reduction? Yes.
In both of those examples, it was a fee waiver. And in the case of the Poudre Canyon Fire fee appeal, that was a waiver for just the planning application fees, not building permit fees. And in the case of the Livermore Fire Protection District fee waiver, it was both planning fees and building permit fees. But, as was just discussed, the fee amount was much lower, in part because it was an addition on an existing building, not a new building being constructed.
Thank you.
So my question is for Rebecca or for staff. They're talking about inflation and things like that. Is my understanding, and correct me if my understanding is incorrect, when an applicant comes in, no matter if they are a nonprofit or another local government agency, like we've had another fire department build a fire station recently that I believe they paid all the fees. I'm curious, as you do that application and have review and do an estimation of what would be, according to square footage and the formulas you have, you would give a estimation of what fees would be needed at the end of the project to be paid for.
Yes, that is correct. So during the planning process, the planners hold a pre-application meeting, and they estimate out what the planning process fees are going to be. And then at any time, a customer can reach out to our building department staff, who will run a full fee estimate of what the full building permit fees will cost based on various aspects of the building permit that will be submitted. And so that is a service that we offer to our customers. At any point in time, somebody can request a fee estimate. It's not a required step in the process for someone to estimate their building permit fees, but we do have the ability to provide those estimates anytime they're requested.
So let me just clarify. So you're saying that maybe they didn't request that, or did we know that this group was given that in the beginning of this process? Were they given an estimation, or did they not request it?
I don't know the answer to that question, and it's possible that Jenny or Mike may have more information on that. I do know that we have been having conversations about the fees on this project since August of 2024. And since the time that they were working through the location and extent process for their fire station building, that was when this conversation first came up about fees, and we informed them of the process for requesting a fee waiver. And it has periodically come up again. We've sent emails to the fire protection district directly and their contractor, as was stated by Mr. Huey, but we did send emails directly to the fire protection district as well, outlining the process in August 2024, May of 2025, and March of 2026. We've made multiple attempts to make the process clear and provide the opportunity to discuss the fee waiver prior to them submitting for the building permit.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I'm not sure if this is for a question for you or for engineering. The formula for the capital, make sure I have the title correct, the transportation capital expansion fee. This is for any new development. It just kind of is a formula we know just to help with any traffic, any kind of traffic increase or not, just to make sure everyone who is adding, developing in the county is paying their fair share for these the road improvements and also maintenance. It also goes to maintenance. That is, I don't know if engineering or someone's in there. This is something that is just based on everyone paying their fair share for growth and expansion and uses in the county. Is anyone available to answer that question?
Yes, this is Tracy Shambo with the County Engineering Department. And yes, you are correct. All new trip generators are obligated to pay the transportation capital expansion fee. It's based on the 28 transportation capital expansion fee study that we have in place. The fee equates to the new trip generation that the new uses on properties will be generating, coming to and from the property, including deliveries, including any trip that would come to and from that access point. The fee goes towards capacity related improvements. It's not meant for maintenance of any county roads. It's really directly related to the need for additional capacity on our countywide road system. So it takes into account trip amount of trips a day, trip lengths. And so in some of the rural areas, sometimes the trip lengths are quite a bit longer than maybe in the more urban areas, but it factors those in an average way because it is a fee that has to be applied countywide. So in Larimer County, we have 3 non-residential uses, fee categories. This fee that was applied in this case is our of the three that we have, industrial, commercial, office, and other services, it was based on the square footage of the building in that industrial category, which is the least trip generator of the categories, non-residential categories we have to choose from. So the fee was based on square footage of the building and that industrial category, which does account for warehouse uses in addition to, again, it's an average, other uses along those industrial guidelines or lines. So hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you, Tracy. That answers my question, and I appreciate the additional that you chose that category because it was the least kind of considered warehouse and the least amount of trips. So I appreciate that very much. Okay, so I think Rebecca, you addressed my other question. Let me go back through and the other question I had, I appreciate Commissioner Gonzalez answering that earlier about clarifying the letters of support. Okay, I think that's all I have. Oh, the question I had maybe was for the applicant. You mentioned mutual aid from Mr. Huey. You mentioned mutual aid and using a lot of help from the Wyoming Fire District, and I'm curious about that mutual aid. Do you ever help with the mutual aid with sharing or reimbursing for certain things, and wonder about how does that work for across the state line, and how do you all work with your mutual aid agreement if there's lots of costs incurred? I'm curious about that.
This, to the best of my knowledge, we have no reimbursement policy. When we need help from them, we get help from them. When they need help from us, we give them help. I do know that earlier, about 60 days, within the last 60 days, there was a small fire, a 2-acre fire on the Wyoming-Colorado border, and 4 different fire districts answered that fire, and it was in rocks, and it took us 4 days to put out 2 acres because nobody could get in there with their bodies, and there was no, we were there, it was needed to be done, and we did it. We also do mutual aid with Crystal Lake. If we have to, we'll go up to Red Feather. We've worked with Wellington. We've worked with Glacier View, and I've never seen money go back and forth. No reimbursements at all.
I'm just curious about that. Thank you, Mr. Huey. That's information. Just was asked about the Wyoming. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. I think that's the only questions that I have. So I'll ask Commissioner Gonzalez. Do you have more questions, or are you ready to go into deliberation, sir?
Thank you. I do have another question.
Okay.
And it's for Tracy, for our engineering folks. I'd just like to better understand the methodology in terms of calculating trips generated, daily traffic, especially in light of some of the comments of the applicant regarding that it would be the fire station would not be staffed on a regular basis. I just would like to better understand that, because I don't think it'll generate the kind of traffic that we saw in the memo.
Okay, so.
Thanks. Thank you.
Hi, Tracy Shambo, County Engineering.
Yes, hi, Tracy.
Hi. So per the land use code and the fee study, there are the direction that we follow from the land use code is new traffic generating uses. We need to pick the fee schedule that's most appropriate or applicable that we have available to us. In this case, that was the industrial fee category that I spoke of earlier. If there is a method for an independent fee calculation study that's within the land use code, if there is a use that is not specifically called out or directly applicable in the code, there is an independent fee study that can be done. We spoke with the applicant about this verbally in the past year when they came in asking about this study. We didn't require a traffic impact study in this case. We have a fee worksheet that said 1 or 2 employees coming to the facility. Like we discussed, there are other potential deliveries or other that was mentioned here earlier today, sheriff's department or people coming and going from that site once it's there. Not sure if there'll be special events. Also considering, I think there was maybe 10, it was noted, and David can correct me, but about 10 emergency calls a month. So it was, and not, since we didn't require a traffic impact study for this use, we do not have an exact average daily trip that was given to us from a professional engineer. So that was our best approach, is using the square footage of the building and the most appropriate use we could find in the land use code to apply that fee fairly as we would other building permits coming in through our office.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Commissioner? Are you ready for deliberations?
Yes.
Go proceed, sir.
Thank you. So appreciate, as always, the good discussion, the professionalism of our staff, and looking up past actions and all that. So I'm genuinely grateful for that. I'm very grateful also for the Livermore Fire Protection District, a volunteer fire protection district that does have is a special taxing district, so they do have some income. They were able to successfully get an increase to their mill levy or to generate more revenue to do the work they do. And so very grateful for that and the relationships that we have. My thinking is that I would support perhaps a middle ground here, a fee reduction, with the understanding that if, for example, we looked at the transportation capital expansion fee, which is almost $13,000 rounded off, that from the commissioner's office, we would need to backfill those funds. So it's not a burden on the engineering department. So I would support a middle ground, a reduction in the fee, and I base that on looking at the review criteria. I do believe they've demonstrated financial hardship with all the other things that they need to do, mortgage payments, figuring out water systems, new equipment and all of that. I think that it's acknowledged, we all agree that the new station would allow the fire district to better serve the area. It's an agency that partners with Larimer County to serve the public and private for public safety. And certainly wildfire risk is a very formidable one. It's one that we try to do our best to prevent and be prepared for and respond to when fires do occur. And certainly Highway 287 north of the Red Mountain turnoff is a very dangerous section of highway. And gratefully, we are going to be making some improvements there that will help with traffic accidents. So that is my position. I would not support the motion that has been presented to us. I would support a motion that recommends some type of a discount, and with the understanding that we would have to backfill it, the commissioners. I hope that makes sense, Madam Chair and colleagues.
So Commissioner, certainly, I am very grateful for the Livermore Fire Protection District and the calls that they make, and I understand the challenges that they have with their voting, with their tax base. But as you stated, they did have a mill levy increase, and I know they were advised several times about the fee reduction application and waiver. and had been updated about how much these were estimated to be. And I believe that whenever you go for a mortgage and they do ask about the construction costs and the fees, I would be surprised if they weren't somehow estimated or included. You know, I'm not sure where our budget is. I mean, everyone needs to know that we're making cuts. We've been making cuts for 2 or 3 years, and we have caps on these things. And so if this is anything we are to be considered, we haven't really even brought this up with the budget department or our staff about where we would find this. And I'm not sure where we would. I really feel pretty strongly that it sounds like staff, like transportation capital expansion fee, was considered to be an estimated the lowest possible rate that they could have done it. And so, but I'm not, I'm not, I'm not, I understand, and I'm not closing my heart and mind to the challenges that they are facing. I would not support a complete waiving. So I'm open to discussing this, Commissioner, but I would like to understand which the amount that you're considering, because that would matter to me. Because I don't feel that we have that wiggle room in our budget, and I wanted to make sure what we're looking at.
No, I thank you. I totally appreciate your comments. And as you can imagine, I haven't fully thought this through. I think to your question, Commissioner, perhaps we would focus in on the dollar amount that is cited in the letter regarding the the transportation capital expansion fee county, which I think is $12,680. And what I'm proposing is a fee reduction that perhaps as a condition of approval that we can backfill that, we can find the almost $13,000 appropriately. And also I neglected to mention that the other suggestion from our county building official about developing a policy around this, I think we ought to consider that as our resources allow. And then I guess one final point, if I may, and that is that, oftentimes when we do these sort of one-offs, and I get that, and I totally get that, and that's why I think we need to have something proactive and formalized if we are to consider this in the future. But even when we did the previous fee waivers with the 2 volunteer fire protection districts, I don't believe we had a flood of requests to waive fees. So I think each situation is unique. I think the situations of our volunteer fire protection districts in outlying areas is even more unique. And that's why I'm suggesting a reduction, the transportation capital fee, with the understanding that we would need to backfill it from our budget, and also that we would look at developing a formal policy for this in the future.
And I appreciate that. And we have a policy, and I want to just reiterate that they had been offered an opportunity to fill out the forms 3 times and didn't take advantage of that. And we have other fire districts, granted they have maybe a little bit larger tax base, but they were able to pay all the fees. And there's not been a precedent of waiving the transportation capital expansion fee. And I do think we have to be very cautious that we are not setting up a precedent for everyone's going to say, well, you did it for these guys, or you did it for these guys. And we are making some hard budget choices. And we have lots of things that we're having to consider cutting in services even in the future, coming this year even. So I just want to be very cautious about I'm not trying to set a precedent that will have lots of requests in the future. And we're providing, these are services, and we know that our road and bridge department is running there's not enough money to cover the maintenance and stuff of the 900 roads that we have. And so we're further taking funding away from that department, which needs that funding more than ever, if not. We have tried to inform the voters of the desperate need for funding for that. So I wanted to take note of that. I think that's very important to acknowledge. We don't have enough to cover the roads and maintain the roads that we have, county roads. And I think people forget that is why we've asked the voters to support, the transportation tax that they did not support last year. And this is why, because that's why these fees don't cover, even the fees that we're charging don't cover the needs that we have in the county. And so that's why I want to make that statement that these don't cover the needs that are there. And so I would say I would consider maybe just a flat rate of 12,000, just flat, so they're paying some of that fee just to have some skin in the game, and reduce it by only 12,000. And I can be open to that because I do hear and understand their financial challenges, but I do think with the mortgage that could have been mortgaged in the fees, because most people in everyday life understand the fees and those can be put into the mortgage beforehand. And so I'm just questioning and curious about why that was not in the formula, because usually most mortgage companies would want to see and understand that and understand the amount. So that's something also that I have some questions, concerns. Would you consider that, sir?
Yes, it's a round number, and it does help the cause. And I just want to make sure that are we in agreement that what I had suggested as perhaps conditions, one being that we would reduce the, that portion of the transportation fee by 12,000, contingent upon or conditioned upon that we in the commissioner's office can responsibly backfill those dollars, and that we would also request that that our community development folks to develop a policy.
I'm not so sure I'd like to develop a policy or request that for them at this point, sir. I'd like to wait till we have a full board to discuss this as a 3-board commission before we consider going forward with that. I have a lot of concerns about this. We know our planning department and our building and engineering department have budget constraints and are running paper thin margins or even worse. And I don't want to further cause them. We have a lot of work to do and a lot of projects that need some attention. And so this would further stretch already strained departments with budget funding. And I want to be very thoughtful of that. And I don't have all the information to feel like I could make that direction. And so I'd like to wait till we have Commissioner Stevens there to have further that conversation.
Yes.
And I think your point of contingent on that, I'm not so sure what that does. If we don't have that, I'd like to ask our county attorney, Frank Haug, if Commissioner Kafalis wants to make that condition of approval. I don't know if we can do that with the appeal. Frank, could you answer that question? I don't know how that
before he
works.
answers that question, Madam Chair, I'd like to answer your question because I think you had a question in what you just shared. And I think you make a lot of valid points. I don't dispute that in the least. But to answer your question, yeah, we can take that off the table about developing a policy. I believe you had a question there.
Yeah, I just think it would be better for us not have a policy question debate, and I'd like to wait for Commissioner Stevens to be part of that. So, Frank, could you answer that question about Commissioner Kafalis's request to consider a condition of approval?
What I understand right now is on the table is a waiver of $12,000 of the fee that's been assessed. The condition of approval that the staff work on a policy is no longer part of that. So the only remaining condition would be that the waiver would only be valid if the board can find the money to backfill. Am I understanding that accurately?
Yes.
The county attorney, yes. Yes.
Generally, the conditions have to be related to the criteria of the application. And so when you look at the criteria of this application, you'd need to find a way to sort of fit it into one of those criteria. I think you probably could do that.
May I offer a suggestion, Frank?
Yes.
No, and totally appreciate your thoughtfulness, and I'm glad you're there. Would it make sense that we just approve the fee reduction of 12,000 or the fee waiver of 12,000 and not put in as a condition about the backfill, but that, on the record, we would work with our budget folks to try to make the engineering folks whole?
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay, is that okay with you, Commissioner Shattuck McNally?
Yes, I would be fine with that, but I don't want any of the departments to have to try to find this within their budgets. So, and I'm not sure how we're going to find it, but I guess we'll be creative. So, I think I can go with that, but just so the applicant knows they still have a portion of those fees to pay. I think the round number is better, and so I think I can feel more comfortable with that. I do understand they have a lot of challenges ahead of them financially. But again, I'm really concerned about setting a precedent until we have that further policy conversation. So, Commissioner, go ahead,
Yeah,
Commissioner.
No, thank you, and I appreciate that. Just to clarify, they have paid the fees, so I guess if we approve this, then ultimately we would be asking whoever cuts a check to cut a check for $12,000 to pay, refund that amount. Because I think they've already paid this, isn't that correct?
Yes, and that's kind of yes,
Okay.
that would be the motions. I'm sure staff have been working on making a motion possibly.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Jenny, do you want us to or Frank, do you want to help us craft that motion? Would it just be for us to approve a fee refund of $12,000?
Yeah, I think you could just move to approve a fee refund of $12,000 on this application. And my understanding, there's no more conditions associated with it. So you could just make that straight motion.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Commissioner Gonzalez, would you make that motion, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you very much. Thank you for the deliberations. So moved.
Any further discussion, sir?
No, we can go back to our shop, Madam Chair, and with our Commissioner Stevens and County Manager and figure out where we would come up with the $12,000 to make engineering whole.
Okay, that'll be a discussion for later on. And with that, we have a motion on the table. No further deliberations. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 2-0. And so thank you all to staff and applicants for this hearing today. With no other items on our agenda, our business is concluded, and at 4:17 we are adjourned. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.